This is the BBC for the Eastern Counties. Now the regional news with Kim Reilly.
Good evening. The Peterborough man named as the murderer of a teenager 13 years ago has emerged from hiding to clear his name.
Michael Brooks was named as the killer of 16-year-old Lynn Siddons by a High Court judge. Today he watched in silence as his solicitor denied the charge.
He is not going to be interviewed at this juncture. If he were, he would repeat his denials of his responsibility for this dreadful murder. The media should now desist and leave Michael Brooks alone.
Cambridgeshire police have begun a campaign against an estimated 22,000 car tax dodgers in the county. Police say many cars without tax may not be MOT'd and could be a danger on the roads. The Department of Transport says drivers avoiding car tax in Cambridgeshire are costing almost £2 million in lost revenue. 500 jobs are under threat at British Aerospace Dynamics in Stevenage. £150 million has been spent on developing the long-range version of the Triget anti-tank missile. Now the government's told its French and German partners it intends to pull out. Talks are to be held to see if the project can continue without government support. The deadline for bids for the Suffolk mansion, Bordsey Manor, expired today. The Ministry of Defence put the manor, an 170-acre estate, up for sale after the RAF pulled out earlier this year. The agents say despite the property slump, there's been a lot of interest in the mansion, which saw the birth of radar in the 1930s. The American airline TWA has asked to start daily services between the United States and Stansted Airport in Essex. The route will run between Stansted and New York's Kennedy Airport. Reminder, more local news on your BBC local stations between 10 and midnight. We'll be back tomorrow in Breakfast News. Good night.
Hello to you. I'm sure you're all aware it's been a very windy day, extremely windy in the north. In fact, gusts of over 70 miles an hour did uproot trees in Stockport. But I think the worst of the winds are over now. They're off out into the North Sea, and typical speeds for midnight might be around this sort of order. Stronger certainly in the east than we've been experiencing down into Lincolnshire and East Anglia, but lightening off as you come further northwest. And picking them up on the computer simulation, you can see the fairly stiff start. They certainly do move down towards East Anglia, but by into tomorrow the strongest winds are out to the North Sea. We're into a fairly gentle, well no, not really gentle, fairly stiff actually, westerly or southwesterly, coming round and picking up behind me here ahead of the next weather system, which in fact is this one here. And there's typical values for tomorrow lunchtime's winds, as you can see, rather lighter than they were today. Let's have a look at tonight. There's going to be a fairly dry night. Fairly stiff winds still in the south, so quite mild, but dropping out altogether in the north, well, nearly altogether, so possibility of a ground frost here and there. And it's tomorrow morning as that next system pushes in some rain. By the middle of the morning, should have reached the west coast of Wales. Fairly heavy rain, I think, eventually in the northern part of England and across Scotland, but certainly a bright start in the south and in the east, even if it's breezy. During the afternoon, that rain will continue its passage into the country, again more likely in the north than the south. The southeast might even hang on to some sunshine. By that time though, fairly breezy everywhere, even gale force winds picking up again in the northwest. And although temperatures maybe 1 or 2 degrees higher, certainly in England and Wales, not maybe so in Scotland, it certainly is not going to feel particularly warm. Let's pick up on those winds again. After that brief respite tomorrow, you can see they're already looking fairly stiff out here in the southwest approaches, the Irish Sea, and out there in northwest Scotland. And as I run the sequence, you can see they really do pick up. In fact, severe gales, even storm force winds likely by midnight tomorrow. Stronger winds up there than we've had today. And in fact, it's this little low pressure here responsible, really a dartboard of winds, as I've heard somebody say. So it looks pretty windy, doesn't it?